See, and we are live. And Julie, I didn't do the thing that I said I was going to do. We're going to go back 5 seconds. There we go. Hi, everyone. There's always a technical difficulty, whether it's like actual technology or whether it's me. Always, every time. Don't care. But welcome, everyone. My name is Charisse Acosta, and I am with Charm City Readers, as you can see right here. And I'm joined today by Julie from Reading on the Brink. Hi, Julie.
Hello.
Julie and I met a few
years.
Yeah, well, thank you. Because we met a few months ago at your house. You invited me over to meet Mary Kendall,
Yes.
who's now also my friend. But we just got to chatting and we started brainstorming. And this idea kind of came out of a whole bunch of discussions that you and I had about your love of books.
Yes. Well, our love of books. I mean,
our love of books, right?
Together. I mean, we are celebrating authors, and why not talk about some more, right?
Well, exactly. So in Charm City Readers, what I've done is I've mostly interviewed authors, especially new launches or recent launches. And so for everyone watching, this is a little bit different. It's kind of a new segment to Charm City Readers. Julie is a Bookstagrammer. And I just wanted to take like a minute for anyone who doesn't understand this whole new world that has been created around book reviews and book talk online, like what it is. So you are on Instagram.
Yes.
And there's your little right there, your little handle at Reading on the Brink. Everyone's going to have to go look her up after this. And Bookstagrammers are social media influencers. So like my 8-year-old wants to be a YouTuber when he grows up. He wants to be you, Julie. That's what he wants to be. He wants to be Julie.
But I don't even think I am. It's just I found some place where I like reading. It gives me an outlet. I get to talk with other people who like reading, and yeah, we discuss books and we get to know the authors. We get to know the other readers. We get to find people like you and groups that love reading. So that's really what Bookstagram is about. And so, I mean, if you want to know about a book, head over to Instagram and find a book blogger because they're there.
There are a lot of them.
There are.
There are a lot of them, but you're the best one and you're my favorite.
Oh, well, I'll thank you. I enjoy it. I enjoy coming up with ideas and stuff. But, you know, with you, the big thing is, you know, both of us read across all genres. I don't even think you can put us in a genre box because you can't.
Nope. I tried. Well, I thought I was in a genre and then I broke out of it.
Well, I mean, I did too. But then I started liking thrillers and then I found fantasy. And then I've always had a soft spot for history. I mean, I was a history minor. There are certain things that I really love about learning about our past. And there are some authors out there that are just so creative. They take the stories that we don't get, whether it's in high school or in college. It's the stuff that kind of just gets filtered out because it's not considered important enough.
Yeah. Periphery stuff.
But you know what? It is. And it is the fabric that makes people who they are and makes us who we are today. And those stories, like we talked about, the untold stories that need to be told.
And that's exactly why we're here, everyone. So we're here because Julian I went to Julie's house and she was like, let me show you my collection of the most favorite books that I've read in the last, I don't know, year, 2 months. You read so many. I know. I was going to quiz you on it, but we've got something happening in a minute, so we don't have time. But
right. I'm so excited.
And so we started talking about genres, and we both love historical fiction. I would have said that I was a historical fiction writer. Hey, special guest, if you can hear me, just 1 second. I don't know if you could see her. I could see her.
I can't, but you have to bring her on because you're the moderator.
But we were talking about historical fiction and specifically untold stories. So what Julie's saying, right? Like something that happened either 20 years ago or 200 years ago. And maybe we've heard just an inkling of what that story is. And an amazing writer comes along, takes it, reinvents it, and tells us the history again in a beautiful, wonderful way that piques our interest. And oftentimes we find ourselves then stopping and going and looking it up to see how much of it is real and reading all the Wikipedia or encyclopedia or wherever you find your information pages on everything you can find because now you're obsessed with that topic.
Yeah.
So let's get started. But folks, I was just telling Julie, I'm a planner, severe planner. And 2 hours ago, we had a special guest that wanted to join us. I'm bringing her in. There she is.
Yay!
You're on mute, Julie. Oh, there you are.
Hi. Oh, you have your copy. I brought one too.
Oh, good. See, I don't have one yet because the key to this segment was that I haven't read it yet, right?
I love
So I can
You
ask
can't do
questions.
too many spoiler alerts, Jillian.
I
But
know, not too many.
Okay, I'll try my best.
So, readers, the goal of this, now I seem really close. Look how far you guys are away. Let me just, I'm like on top of on top of the camera.
I was too. I was just so excited to see you all.
So the goal of this segment for Charm City readers was to kind of have Julie on, who's reading so many more books than we are and being exposed to so many more books, and tell us some of her favorites, right? So Julie and I got together and she was like, I love Untold Stories. They're my jam. And I said, which ones are your favorite? And Jillian, yours was the first one that she mentioned.
What an honor, honestly.
Well, and so we said, why not get on, do a quick, like, bite-sized segment on these books so all of the folks who are watching can hear about the book, be passionate about the book, pick up the book, read the book, right? And perhaps, Jillian, I know you have another book out or coming out soon, and we will get to that. We'll have you back on to go through all the books and the spoilers and all that stuff, because that's my jam.
I love it.
That's your jam.
All right. So I was going to put Julie on the spot, but now that you're here, Jillian, you can give us a summary of your book.
Yeah. So I love that this theme is Untold Stories because this was one that I stumbled upon quite literally at a zoo. I am a huge zoo person. I always have been. It just fascinates me to see different animals. And I'm just one of those people who like, I'm an animal magnet. My 3 cats are clawing at the door right now. If you hear anything, that's what that is. And we were at a zoo in 2020. My goal that year, because I had a 5-year-old, she's now 9, was to see every zoo in our state. And, you know, some of them are really small. I know that's a fun goal. And it was social distancing. And there were some road trips involved. So it was really good. And we went to this zoo in Salina, Kansas called the Rolling Hills Zoo. And it was cold. So we went into the rhino barn. And I thought I was going to see, you know, normal African rhinos with 2 horns. And I saw an Indian rhino for the first time in my life. And for people who aren't super familiar with the species, there's 5 species of rhinos left. There's 3 in Asia, 2 in Africa. Black and white are the ones that we're most familiar with seeing. But the Asian rhinos are very rare. There's actually 2 species, the Javan and Sumatran, that most normal people will not see alive in their lifetime.
Wow.
They are so rare. There's less than 100 left on the planet of each of them. The pictures of them are insane. They're literally, they live with armed guards. And here I am in this zoo, just a normal person looking at this rhino. And I said, what is that? That is not something that I have seen before. I don't know what I'm looking at because it had plated armor and it was so bizarre looking. And he was 6 feet at the shoulder, a monstrous animal.
Wow.
And he was kicking his water bucket. He was mad. He was like, I need attention. You aren't doing what I need. So I saw immediately personality.
Yep.
And me being the huge history nerd that I am, I'm like, okay, first of all, I've never seen this animal before and I'm a huge animal lover. So I immediately Google it and I Wikipedia it. And I saw one of my favorite pieces of art and you can see it behind me. Oh, I'm going to point weirdly. You can see it behind me. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. There's Durer's rhino. And I said to my husband, I love this medieval artist who drew rhinos. And then I went on a rabbit hole. And isn't that how this normally goes? I went on this rabbit hole of rhino stuff. And what that led me to is a stub article about Clara. And a stub article basically means in Wikipedia, it's short because there's not a lot of sources. And at the bottom of the stub article about Clara, there was like a see more links. And I saw this book by one of my favorite people in the world now. Her name is Glynis Ridley, called Clara's Grand Tour. It was published in 2004. And I immediately bought it. And I said, why is there not a novel about this rhino who traveled Europe for 18 years? What's going on? And my historian friend answered that question for me. He said, well, first of all, her owner was not a famous person. And in the 18th century, most people who left behind written records were very famous. And so those are the stories that we remember. And her ship captain caretaker did not leave behind any written record. I have like a signature and a land deed and part of his VOC, like his sailor records. And that's it. I have tons of art. I have broadsides, things that were supposed to be thrown away. I have paintings, maps, sculptures, pieces of porcelain that were made from her. And I know who made them, where they made them, and what year they were made. So I was able to piece together this map of all of Clara's adventures through the 18th century for 18 years. And when I did that, I said, wow, okay, so now I have to write this book. And I actually was in contact with Glynis, who wrote the nonfiction book. And like I said, that book came out 20 years ago. And she said, hello, would you like all of my sources that I found in the meantime?
That's incredible.
It was incredible.
Like,
the fact that I got a historian to even answer me. And then she's like, hi, not only will I blurb your book, her words are on the back of my book, but I will beta read it for you and give you all of my sources. And part of the reason that she did that was because she felt just like me that animals deserve to have their histories told. And this is perfect for Untold Stories because they can't speak.
No.
And as much as I would like to tell you what Clara's life was really like, I don't actually know. And that always will kind of make me pause. But this is such an important story for how humans and animals create love between each other. And one of the things that struck me the most about this Untold Story is that most rhinos in captivity before Clara came to Europe lived for 6 months. One of them was purposefully blinded so that they could control it, and the other ones usually died of starvation. Clara lived for 18 years. That tells you something about the person who cared for her, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I think, I mean, I just have to piggyback real quick to say you did an excellent job of portraying, while it was fiction, you gave Clara the heart and soul in the book around her caregivers. I mean, from Zubin, and I'm going to butcher it, but I was saying, I know Zubin, and I say Dawa.
Yes, that was a huge debate. When I first met with Glynis, we both said do. And then when we had the audiobook auditions, all 65 people who auditioned said it differently. And we're like, we don't know. So someone just picked.
Who's the character? You guys know this book. Who's that character? Who are we talking about?
The main character, he's ship captain. He has a terrible first name. I'm going to spell it for you. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Get your brain on. Douwe.
Ooh. What ethnicity is that?
He's Dutch.
He's Dutch.
Yeah.
I feel like, yeah, okay. The only Dutch person I know is Dr. Pol. And he's
I love Dr. Pol. I binge watch that. That kind of tells you who I am.
My son and I binge watch it, so there's no shame here.
Okay, good. That also got me through the pandemic. Okay. No, so we've gone to Douwe, and you know what, however you want to say it, I always say to people who ask, like, you know what, if we could go back to 1740 and ask the man, I would love to do that.
I love how you say that. Yeah. I mean, I just call him Douwe because it just, in my mind, it makes it easy. And if you throw the little French Belgian onto that of the Dutch, Douwemont, you know, right? I don't know.
We love it.
I will also say, I think Caroline Hewitt did a great job in the audio too.
I agree. It was a very difficult decision because when she auditioned, everyone else auditioned, she had COVID. So she couldn't audition fully. And I had to listen to her other clips and not the 3-minute clip of the Rhino Keeper that everyone else was auditioning with. And I knew this story is emotional in many different ways. There's a moment where the main character has a panic attack. And that was something that I knew I needed someone with high stakes to be able to give to us. There's a lot of tender moments. There's some action bits. And she also speaks French and German. I knew that if we went with someone who could carry the emotional weight, that it would be adding to the experience of this story. And when I was editing the audiobook, I found myself you have to follow along word by word, by the way, when you do that, which I didn't know. You follow along word by word, and I found myself getting lost in my own world again. Because of Carolyn's work. It was
she could embody it. She really did. Everything from, visiting King Louis in his court and Maria Teresa over, like, you have all of that. You've got Italy, you've got India, you bring it all together. You're on a ship going around the Cape. I mean, if this isn't an ode to travel in as much as it is history and an animal lover, there's so much content in this. And it's also, I will tell you, it's multi-generational in a lot of ways. My father and I listened to it together.
Oh, I love that.
I'm an almost 80-year-old man, and he loved this book as much as I did.
You're that mom?
you
Mom.
know, it really
She's
was good.
not 80.
Action,
She's a hard
there's
sell on new books.
adventure, there's some tense moments.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's relatable, because you not only do history, you also, it's a dual timeline. So you bring this present moment to us. And, you know, we all were students once upon a time, whether high school or college. You know, the thrill of do you have a good professor? Do you want that good professor? And are you able to go ahead, and who wouldn't want time abroad to go and investigate?
I've had a lot of questions about why I decided to make this a dual timeline. And when I first wrote this book, you have a very condensed version. I have what I call the director's cut, if Steven Spielberg ever comes calling. The version that you have is 94,000 words. The original version was 148.
Oh, wow.
So I cut about 100 pages of this to fit into this debut. You know, it's actually pretty short once you look at the page numbers, but there's so much packed into it. But the thing that I loved about this book was that I had this big road trip, but at the end of it, when everything wraps up, I'm trying not to give any spoilers. My biggest question was, what happened after? I am a museum studies person.
Yes.
And I had that question myself as a historian. Where is Clara today? If you're telling me that she was the first animal celebrity, and we have images of Dawei, real art, and every single piece of art that's mentioned in the book, I actually have found, and it is real. There's nothing invented. As far as the artifacts, the art, nothing is invented. All of those things exist. That also goes for things like there's a jeweled dagger. There's a statue of Durga. There's a 17th century desk that I found in an antique mall that I wrote into that. All of those things I have either found and they are real, or they exist in museums today. But the biggest problem that I had was, if I'm going to do that with all these other artifacts, where's the biggest artifact of all? And that is Clara's horn and Clara. And there's 2 images of art with Clara in it, and Dawei is holding her horn in 2 of them, and it is separated from her body. There's this tiny bit of time where she was supposed to go to Italy for an appearance, and she didn't show. And then 2 months later, she appears in Rome hornless. That was kind of like a brain moment for me where I'm like, wait a minute. So, my AirPod fell out. To her horn. Hold on.
Right.
Technical difficulties, Julie. I told you.
No, honey.
That's what I get for having big earrings and an earpod.
It happens on every video I do. It's fine. This is normal.
What happened to Clara? What happened to her horn that he's holding in his hand? Rhino horns today, still today, in 2025, are more valuable than gold by the ounce.
Yeah. Which is
they serve no medicinal purposes. No. They're literally keratin. It's like fingernails. I felt rhino horns before on live rhinos, and I've wiggled them and scratched them with my fingernails to see, like, what is this? It feels like a ton of hair, just very tightly bound, almost like it's been shellacked, very coarse. It's very strange feeling. And if there's any like shaved parts from it, you can see where the tiny keratin fibers are coming forward. But her horn has no auction record. Her horn is not in any museum that I have found. Her skeleton, however, I believe I have found it. There is a very old rhino skeleton at the Grant Museum in London. It's attached to a London museum. And I called them and I talked to the curator, and she said, you know what? This thing's really old. It's probably like 200 years old. We actually cannot tell you yes or no. We don't know. It's very possible that this is that. The thing for me is, it's like, what other rhino skeleton could it possibly be? If they think that it's over 200 years old, they have a very small pool to pick from. So
exactly.
Yeah. And she died in London. So you have to assume those things. And so for me, knowing that piece that kind of tugs you in, wait, what? You think you really found her skeleton? How could I leave that out of the book? How could I just put that in the author's notes? And the only way to really make that full circle moment is to invent where I personally think that Clara's horn is. And I'm not going to give that spoiler away, but I had to write that timeline, not only for that piece of it, but to also prove to people that historical animals do deserve to have their stories told in museums, in settings where academia often ignores them, and that the impact that they have is actually lasting. And one bit that I cut was that zookeepers actually started learning about rhino care because Clara came to Europe. Her impact is, it's generations long. And another scene that I cut, I really should get this one back out. She met Carl Linnaeus, the father of modern biology, and she's the genotype species.
What?
Yep. Rhinoceros unicornis because of Clara. It's just like, it's so freaking cool, right? Like, why has no one written a novel about this before?
Do you?
Why do you not have
You put a little bit in there, didn't you? Of that?
Yeah.
Didn't you put
a little bit was in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
This sounds like so many different releases, though, that you could be releasing for months and months and years afterward, right? I mean, unless you're going to have a second book. I mean, you have it. It's done. Share with the world, Jillian.
Okay, so my second book is based on a chapter in The Rhino Keeper. When I was researching all this art, I know, I had to do it. I call it a companion novel. When I was researching all this art, I found this. Oh my gosh, I have a piece right here.
Uh-oh.
That's okay. Give it time.
3. Okay. Do you see it?
There?
Yes. Can you see me? Hi.
Is it a turtle?
It's a turtle. This is porcelain. Can you believe that? It doesn't look like porcelain, right?
Yeah, no.
So this is Meissen porcelain. And there was a man who was basically told, you need to make the king a full porcelain menagerie before you are released from your services, to this crazy king who had like 300 mistresses and like 12 bastard children and locked his queen in a tower. And none of his artists were allowed to leave. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's that book?
Right?
Untold Stories, Julie.
That's it. I mean, so Clara the Rhino, there's my earpod again. Clara the Rhino makes an appearance at the end of that book. And The Porcelain Menagerie is the name of that. And that comes out in October. Because
I asked Julie and she wasn't sure yet. And I was like, all right, well, we have this on. Ryan Hale said, Jillian is describing the rabbit hole adventure I so often find myself in. There are always amazing discoveries along the way. I'll pick up The Rhino Keeper.
Yay. Thank you.
Yay.
There's more rabbit hole stuff in there. I could go on and on, you guys. I really could.
There's so much. I mean, just, here, I'm going to try and open it real quick because so, I mean, if this is not like just the map alone and starting in India,
love a map and a book.
And then going and how Clara got to Europe. But then not only that, then she was paraded around Europe. And it's just like all of these places so we had 4 years where we lived over in Europe. And I felt like I was able, like those places, you did some of them. I was like, yep, I know it. Yep, I see it. Yeah. Like it was so neat to be able to just go back. Aww. Part of the reason we love diving into a book is because we want to get taken to that place. We want to get taken at that time. And, with this untold story, Clara's story really does need to shine. And I love how you say, these animals, they need to let their story out. And I know you read another one too, that is parlay and part and parcel a little bit later on than Clara's story, but how do 2 African giraffes not only do a similar journey, but from Africa across the Atlantic over to New York, and then when they get there, they go through the worst devastating hurricane and
road trip time after that. I mean,
right?
So wait a minute, Julie transitioned, but we have to actually tell people what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, yes, I know, but I wanted to keep.
I'm like, do I need to be here? You guys are doing great, by the way. You're doing fantastic. Wait, we didn't have. So I don't have the book on me, but this is going to be. Hilarious.
I think I do. Hang on.
Well, I was going to cover Julia's face. Julia, you ready?
Yeah, you can cover my face. It's okay.
Jillian, look, I covered her face with the book. Wait a minute.
Oh, hey.
There we go.
So I lent mine out, or else I would have it.
So this is what we're talking about next. This is West with Giraffes, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, by Linda Rutledge. And who wants to give the summary? Julie, you started. You just go.
I mean, that's what it is. You have these 2 giraffes that land in New York in 1938 when a hurricane hits. Somehow they miraculously survive. And the U.S.'s first female zookeeper out in San Diego has requested them to come from New York to San Diego, but not by boat, not to go around on a boat again. No, they've got to go across the country, like over 2 mountains. And it is their story of a reporter the guy the old man, shall we say, who is the character who's driving them, and a vagabond who pops on and takes the journey of his life.
So Jillian, as you've written a story from scratch, like, we don't know Linda. Linda's not here, but like, how does this story come about? Like the same way you think, with like, she stumbles across an article and thinks, I know. That's
so it's funny you say that, because I've actually talked to Linda before.
Stop it.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah.
Next time she's on.
Listen, when you have 2 animal road trip books that come out like concurrently, like of course we have each other's emails. Like that's just how this is gonna go, because it's too weird. It's too random. We had to be like, oh hey, another weird animal story. So yeah, I think it was the same thing. She actually had it a lot easier than I did, because she had newspaper articles that were printed in the time.
But like,
yeah,
I know it's hard to see. It's like New York World Telegram. Like there's telegrams. She could
written record.
Written record
board. She actually had all of these like data points from all of the written records, and she also included them in her book.
Love it.
That's the way to do it. I mean, if you're going to write historical fiction, you don't have to write something that's just set in the past. You better tell a true story that's worth telling, and use the sources given to you. If they still exist, use everything. And that's one of the reasons I love West with Giraffes, is not just an animal story. This is also a story of the Dust Bowl, the Great Depression. It's a coming of age story. And all of these things are woven with this feminist twist that I really love as well. But we're also dealing with an America that a lot of people don't really have their eyes open to, both with the places that they go and the people that are used as characters in this. I think that the young man in this book really helps characterize someone who is, once again, not a famous person, down on their luck, searching for who they are. And this cross-country road trip with giraffes, I just have to say, in today, would be extremely difficult. Animal movers of that capacity are extremely expensive, and it's very stressful for the animals. I can't imagine in the 1930s what it really would have been like, same with us. And you also have to keep in mind this. We're not chugging down the interstates. They didn't exist for another 20 years.
These are gravel roads.
Yeah, there's a lot of small town stuff in that book that I love.
I mean, trying to get them over the mountains alone.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think both books, and that's what I love about it, is they tell us a time. I mean, like you said, Jillian, that we might study the 1700s, the 1800s, but who really studies the 1750s unless you are a niche, historian? Really. And you give us a time and a place where things weren't, off with their heads and stuff like that so much, but it was important. You have King Louis, you have Maria Theresa, you have the Habsburgs. Things are going to happen, and you were laying the background for it in a way that, I feel like Linda did too, in giving us kind of this, what happens after the Dust Bowl, but before the World Wars. We don't know, because it's not talked about.
Right.
And we don't know what form of poverty or the world looks like in those in-betweens. Over states, I live in one. I live in Kansas. We're talking about these places that you don't often think about. And that was one of the things I really enjoyed, was we're going to random places here too. But also the fact that she had those newspaper articles that allowed us to see those things, just incredible. Yes. And I really think that the side of this story at the end really captured me as well. And the fact that we're getting almost a Water for Elephants vibe, where we're seeing the old man retell the story, is always something that I really love, that format of book where you have an elder person telling their story. It gives you two things. It gives you hope, because they're going to make it, right? But it also gives you this sense of homecoming, where you're like, okay, well, he's going to revisit this and tell it from his lens. And I don't know why, but that just always gives me warm fuzzies, Yeah.
Well, that was one of my questions. So both of these books use dual timelines. And how did you decide? Why not just write it in the moment? Why jump around? And not a trick question, just curious.
I think for me, it was, like I said, I absolutely had to include the story of what happened to her after. It would have bothered me forever if I was at events like this or book clubs or something like, oh, and also, you want to know what happened after? No, I just had to write it in. But I think for Linda's purposes, once again, it's grounding. it reminds you of the fact that he has lived all of these things, and then it kind of tells you what's coming next in a way that feels, I don't know. I mean, there's, what am I thinking of? Nicholas Sparks, A Walk to, yeah, it's intimate. Nicholas Sparks does this all the time, where the old folks are telling the story and you just feel connected. Yeah. I think too, the young man in this book doesn't feel as easy to get along with at first. He's a rough character. So you kind of see him come full circle when you see him at 105 years old. 105.
Well, it's sort of a story of redemption, right? Not just for the drafts. You know what I mean? Like making it that far, but for the people who get to live to tell the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I love how you say that, Trista, because, you know, it's one of those where I feel like Jillian did that too, in a way, because you bring Andrea in. Mm-hmm. You give Clara redemption at the end.
Yeah. We all need that full arc. I think in both of these stories, you wonder what's going to happen to the animals, and you find out in both of them, but you also wonder what's going to happen to these people who care about these animals, and why do I care? That's the thing, is there's still a lot of people on the planet who don't care about animals at all. And that is something that's always really affected me. But in both of these novels, you get this sense that in the modern timelines, the people that are there are like, no, listen, this is important. You got to learn from this, because the entire planet that we're talking about. And also that compassion that exists beyond culture, beyond age. Most people can identify with an animal that they love or have loved, or an animal that made them say, what the heck is that? Can you imagine the first Americans who saw a giraffe?
Right.
I mean, what is that?
What is that?
Exactly.
Your mind would be like, wait, I need to go back to bed.
Very large zebra thing.
Just keep going. I'm actually beta reading a book right now about the okapi and how they used to fake it. They used to paint stripes on things and dots on things. And actually, another thing I cut out of the Rhino Keeper was Clara was going to a town, and there was a donkey that was dressed up as a rhino before she got there. And everyone was like, oh, we thought you were already here. They believed it.
Oh my gosh. No way.
But it's how small the world was, right? Like,
it's how small the world was.
How big it is now that we can be actually in all the different places we are having this conversation. And the world was so small.
Think about too how big the world is when you can make an animal that lives in Africa go from New York, survive that hurricane, and then take them across the country to California. That is a modern feat. That it's unbelievable that we have zoos. Truly.
Right.
I know there's a lot of people who don't like them, but the reality is a lot of zoo animals now are born in captivity, and they are there so as we can study them and make sure that the ones in the wild do have a future. But think about that. Think about the fact that an animal from Africa in the 1930s made it to California. Mm-hmm. That's a long trip, y'all.
That is a long trip. Jillian, where's your favorite zoo on Earth?
Of course you asked me that question. That's a really tough question. The first thing that comes to mind is, my first absolute must visit if you ever go there, because it's very obscure. There's a zoo and right outside of Nassau. And we walked there one day when we were supposed to be doing stuff. Instead, we walked to the zoo. It's the only zoo in the Bahamas. It is old, and it feels old in the best way, where like there's these jungle plants that climb over everything, and there's these water trenches that are dug in and paved. And I'm like, this is a fantasy setting. And you walk around the corner and there's a white peacock, and they have trained flamingos. It was just beautiful. There wasn't any animal there that I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they have this animal, but just the setting was stunning. Mm-hmm. My absolute favorite zoo in the world is just down the road. It's called Tanganyika Wildlife Park. And the reason that I love it is because they are small, gritty, and they have incredible animal experiences. I was able to have my book launch party there, and everybody got to feed a baby rhino.
Stop it.
Serious.
Can you redo that party? Because Julie and I want to come.
Right?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I love that. And then
5-year anniversary party back at the zoo.
Seriously, though, I would do it. My other favorite zoo is my other local one. It's the Sedgwick County Zoo, where now I can go up to the black rhino that lives there, and I can shout his name, and he will come running to me, because that's what rhinos do. They recognize people and faces and voices that they like, just like dogs. And he knows me now.
I can't even get my kid to come.
That's awesome.
And rhinos make little peeping noises. They peep, peep, peep. And so when they run at you, they're making like this high-pitched cat noise. I know, it doesn't seem real, and it just makes me feel so special.
Don't they roar? Am I just completely off base? I thought they roared or something. There's no terrifying noise they make?
No, that is actually a common misconception. That was
See?
from
You gotta
Pliny the
educate.
Elder. I know. He also wrote that elephants and rhinos are mortal enemies and that rhinos would eat a man in one bite. They are vegetarian.
So much we learned tonight. And it's not even in the, I mean, it is in the book, but it's not. Like, it's not there. Like, that's so awesome.
Julie, I said this would happen. I said you get 3 women on a screen talking about books, and it's gonna just go crazy. It's gonna
Rhino noises. Yeah.
So Julian, I want to give you a couple minutes because like when I knew you were coming on, I was like, I need to learn more about Julian. You have a master's in public history. I don't even know what public history is. What's public history?
Public history is basically interpreting major events that happened in the past for people who have no context of why they're. So for me, that means things like my historical fiction. It means things like museum tours, nonfiction books, all that kind of stuff. People with a master's in public history usually go museums, archives, or public preservation. So like historical preservation and things like that. I went the museum route. I was a museum director. I was a museum educator, which means I gave a ton of museum tours. But really the goal of public history is to make it feel like you don't have to memorize the Civil War dates, but here's how the Civil War relates to why we live the way that we live today. And I think it's basically a way to apply history to daily life. And I've just taken that and rolled with my historical fiction.
Yeah, but did you plan on being a writer, or you just loved history, right? And then this sort of
yeah, these things, they just kind of find you sometimes. So when you're going through a master's program in history, you do have to write a master's thesis. And mine was about the 18th century, specifically about pregnant women who had committed capital crimes and they were slated to be executed and they pleaded their bellies and what the government did with them. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So if you want to read that, that's on academia.edu. It's absolutely fascinating.
hockey sticks.
Right. So it was really fun. It was like pirates and witches and a murderer. Hello. I had the best time with that. But it's really interesting and important. So
no spoiler, but read Rhino Keeper because there might be a little
there's a little sprinkle.
I have not seen. Julie, did you know that the big secret was coming? Did you predict it?
So I kind of did because of the ship doctor.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but I am the person who I have to call my friend at the commercial to say, well, what do you think is going to happen next? Like I do that. And so you should see when I have my tabs, I normally write on my tab, is this foreshadowing?
Okay. Chris, she looks like she's really missed out. There's a huge twist in this book in The Rhino Keeper that very few people have predicted. And I've been so pleased because it has like 400 reviews on Goodreads and very few people have mentioned it. And I'm like, we're keeping the secret. So good, readers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Keep that secret.
Because you know what? You do such a good job. It's only because I tend to.
But you're an avid reader, Julie. I would predict that you would get my little tiny bits of foreshadowing that you would have gotten.
There's just but when you're okay. Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. See, I love it when I think I know. I think I know. Like I was just reading Ryan who had commented and I was like, oh, I know how this is going to end. And then I don't. And I'm like, well, I was completely wrong about that. Like that's almost a joy to me too, because you surprised me and shocked me. But it's actually like, I'm so glad. I mean, if I would have known you on here, I would have read the book and we could have done the whole thing. But I'm also sort of so glad I didn't read it because this is the point. The point is now I'm dying to read it. The people who are watching are dying to read it. We have to read it. And then I can predict the untold
stories is we got to bring these stories to light. Get Clara in front of people. You know?
Yeah, look at this. You guys, people give me so many little rhino toys now, but look how cute she was.
I mean, you want to talk about a unicorn. Clara truly was a unicorn of animals.
She was.
Yeah.
I mean, she really was. So I'm so excited. This picture right here is great. And it's more than I could have ever dreamed about when we talked about getting untold stories out there.
Well, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Jillian, you're welcome back anytime.
I've got another untold story with, remember, weird little turtle porcelain. Let's go.
Okay. I know. I cannot wait to find out who was behind that door truly and all of the things and his story. I know.
Listen, okay, I will tell you one thing. I had to put a content warning in this book
Ooh.
because of how absolutely brutal this real life king was. I couldn't edit him. Okay, this is not a spoiler alert. His literal recorded, hold on, I'm getting so dramatic. His literal recorded last word, my entire life has been a sin. Those were literally his deathbed words.
Just hearing it.
Yeah, I had to put a content warning in this thing. So, hey, you know what? There's the messed up stuff in this next book, but it's so intense and I'm so proud of it. If you liked The Rhino Keeper and you liked that chapter about the porcelain maker, get ready because he's the main character. Wait for everybody to know who he is.
Goodness. And like you think about all of the little things that we have, our little things that we might find as a treasure when we're traveling or something to that effect, something that whether our maybe it's something that was handed down to us from our grandparents, that porcelain. I have a porcelain rose, from my grandmother. All of these things, and you're like, you might visit the factory, you might be able to go in and see where some of this is made. What if it is handmade, and what is the story behind that person?
Right. You see my little evil face right here?
I know.
Guess where I'm going next month?
I know, because you're going to be doing the cover reveal.
I'm going to the porcelain factory in Europe. Yes.
Oh my gosh. All right, we need to stream that live. Are you going to be doing a live bit with that? I need to get information.
I'm trying to figure that out because the time zone change is dramatic, but I'm like, I'll figure it out.
Okay.
I'll get it worked
I'm going to start bothering you now. I'm so sorry. I'm going to be like blowing up your messenger.
Your 6 p.m. is our noon, so we'll just have to figure that part out.
Okay, that's actually good to know.
It's only because I lived over there. In order to call East Coast time, that's pretty much how I had to figure that part out.
My daughter's currently in South Korea, and I'm always like, wait a minute, what time is it there? I don't like it's nighttime if it's daytime, it's daytime if it's nighttime. That's
a long one. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been awesome, and it went by way too fast. But we're 42 minutes. We were never going to hit 30. Never in a million years.
No, never. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, this was great. Jillian, tell people your website, which social you're on, how they can find you, where the book is sold.
Yeah, I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. I do dabble in Threads a little bit. You can find my book, a signed copy, on my website, which is jillianforsberg.com. I really recommend people buy directly from my publisher, which is History Through Fiction, or you can do bookshop.org so that we can help support our local bookstores.
Oh, that's so lovely. All right, Julie, where can people find you?
Right here. No, honestly, Facebook, Instagram, those are my two. I really don't. I've tried, Blue Sky Chat, but I just can't seem to get into that. So, and then also I'd love if you happen to be doing, I know Jillian would love this too. If you happen to read it, throw a review up on Goodreads, on BookBub, some of those places, on the Storygraph. Like, people do see. Sorry, I always have to say
I still am on Goodreads, folks. I tried. Storygraph's rough.
Me too. I gotta limit my capacity. I'm getting there.
So but Goodreads, and you can follow. I do love seeing that you can follow people on Goodreads and stuff like that too, and see if you like somebody and like their reviews, follow what they're reading next. So you can hit me up there too. And I still owe you a review on there, but I did put the stars and everything. I try and look, I have a whole journal of where I write as much as I can daily. So I do attempt it, but reading's more important.
Reading is so,
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
So Julie, you did promise me we're going to get those reviews and we're going to post them to Charm City readers, right? So that way of these two books, your reviews?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, if you don't mind, before we have one more surprise.
That's right. One more surprise. Thank you for the reminder.
Because now, as much as I would love it to be one of yours, I'm actually going to be working with you for something later. But I want to do a buddy read because I was just recommended The Lions.
I love
and
this is amazing.
And so I, for anybody who is watching, I would love for you to comment by Friday.
Perfect.
Just have to comment that, whether you do hashtag replay, hashtag pick me, you know, or hashtag untold stories.
Oh
If you
yeah,
use
let's
any
start
of
using the
those,
hashtag.
you'll be entered to win. And I'm going to do the name randomizer on Friday, probably later. I'll say 11:59 on Friday, so we can do a Saturday or Sunday giveaway.
I will be asleep at 11:59, so I trust that you will hold true to your timeline.
Yeah, yeah. So
It's
anyway,
such a good book.
I would love to buddy read with whoever from Charm City Readers who comments.
I'll buddy read with you. Can I buddy read too? I want to buddy read.
Everybody can read it, but only one person can win this copy.
Jillian, we don't assign books really, right? We just recommend them. So like we're not into assigning yet. So yes, someone will buddy read with Julie and I.
Yay!
Yes, I love that.
So,
all right.
Can't wait.
Okay, well, you guys stay on just for a minute to say goodbye, but say goodbye to everybody who has watched and will be watching.
Thank everybody for watching.
Bye, friends.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, The Rhino Keeper. Bye, Westwood Drafts.